Welcome. I'm Bernice Ross.
And my name is Greg McDaniel.
And my column this week looks at some best practices from the past that we can tweak for today's COVID-19 environment, because our leads are plummeting. We can't do open house. We can't do door knocking. We can't do a lot of face-to-face meetings. We can't do face-to-face client appreciation. So what can we do? But Greg, I want to begin by something you've mentioned that you did about, you've got this $2 million all cash buyer who's living in a place that's really, scary that she's in San Francisco, B&B. She wants to get out of that. So what's up with her? And you had some results from calling these people who had listings.
Yeah, so I reached out to. I had the idea to call all of the listing agents of the homes that we had made offers on, or she had expressed an interest in. And so I reached out and I had multiple different conversations, and each of the listing agents actually thanked me for calling them, which I was like, oh, okay, you're welcome, no problem. I appreciate your time as well. But then the other day I had one of the agents reach back to me and said, hey, we may have a hiccup in the deal, give me a ring. So you know what? We were able to communicate. Now, here's the funny thing about it. Unfortunately, they did work out the hiccup, so they're going to move forward with the deal. But and this is where my client came in, and she wrote to me and she asked me a question, because in the agent's text to me, he basically said, Greg, we resolved it, except for the fact that, I still need no contingencies, like a $2 million offer, and close in like 10 days, if we're going to move forward. And she's like, why is he trying to sell us again? I mean, does he really think that he's going to get that in this market? I said, I don't know, man. I just passed on what he told me. But it goes to the mindset of how the mindset that needs to be adjusted, I guess.
Well, this house sold for how much over asking? Was it 200,000 or 300,000 over asking?
At least three.
At least 300,000 over asking, with no contingencies and no inspections, and it needed quite a bit of work.
Yep.
So, one of the big takeaways here, again, if you have clients who have written they lost multiple offers, call back all those listing agents. And also, as I said in the article, double check if there's somebody that was in a multiple offer, maybe even a year ago. And, look on the MLS and look on public records. Did that property sell? If your client's still interested, it could be a good time to contact that person. You need to pay attention to, are you in the protection period covered under the listing? Most of those tend to be 6 months. Is that what it is in your area? That,
yeah.
6 months. So if you're over 6 months out, you can contact that seller directly and get a one-party listing on that and show it. So that's just something that's, it's a way to get more listings possibly, but certainly to maybe do a deal for somebody who, was interested a while back. And I think really an important takeaway here, Greg, is something that we were talking about before we jumped on, is that as listing agents, we have before COVID-19, and now what happens when, we get back, start moving towards, normal, our price is going to be the same. I don't think they are. What's your take on it?
I don't think they can be. There's several reasons. I mean, one, we haven't had a lot of comparables. If the comparables are going to be there, they're obviously going to be an adjustment in some way, shape, or form. I don't know what that's going to look like in everyone's neighborhoods, but there has to be some sort of adjustment. I mean, if 300 million people are staying home and, economies are tanking and jobs are being lost, or people are being furloughed, or, kind of like their hours are being cut, how can a price be demanded if the consumer can't afford it? I don't know. I think just mathematically.
It's still supply and demand thing. I mean, the demand is going to be very different, I think, when we get past this. We don't know yet, and that's something we can kind of watch and see. I want to go on now to talk about some of the basics. And one of the most fundamental ones is the difference between a lead versus a prospect versus a client. What's your take on that?
You know what? I think there's another part in there, and it can be part of a lead, but I think the first part of getting someone to work with you, they are a respondent, because they're responding to some sort of outside action. Then that becomes a lead. So if Zillow or Trulia or Realtor.com or who knows, your Aunt Bessie who's running Facebook ads for you, get someone to respond to that outbound lead, like, hey, are you interested in buying or selling? Then that becomes a lead, and then the lead is then pushed over to you, and then it turns into a prospect, and that's the person you're starting to prospect and work, and then turns into a client who you're actively working with. My dad beat it into my head when I was younger. Greg, they're not leads, they're respondents. And
I've never heard that distinction before, but I like that. They've responded to your ad. So, and when they respond to the ad, or if it comes through someone else, they respond to that other person's ad. It's an interesting distinction. Respondent may be something that is what they do on Zillow. Then when they get to you, they are a lead. And then
right.
A prospect is when they express an interest in working with you. You actually get a hold of them and have a conversation.
Yeah.
And then the takeaway here, and I can't really emphasize this enough, when you first start working with a buyer or seller in today's market or any market, this is just a best practice. Have the agency documentation signed at your very first before you do anything with them. Because if there is a commission dispute, and we see people do this all the time to us, they'll run you around showing property. You take these people, and then they'll have their sister-in-law write the offer.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you've got the agency documentation and she doesn't, you go to arbitration or even to court. The court or the arbiters are going to rule based upon who has that agency documentation signed. So this is protecting your commissions, protecting your relationship, especially when you've done a lot of the work. So, that's just a good takeaway. Now, the second thing we wanted to talk about, NAR says that 75%, the latest profile of buyers and sellers says that 75% of the sellers hire the first person they meet face-to-face. Well, we can't be face-to-face, so what's our next options? Video, email, Zoom meetings. Now, Greg, you've got some really interesting stats on some work that one of the people Tim Stafford has been doing. What does his research show? I know he said he was reviewing 60 doctoral studies in this area. So he's got a whole bunch of information that's really interesting.
Yeah. Tim is fascinating. I think we're going to get him on and do an interview with him because he's so smart, and he's got fascinating stuff to look at. So when it comes to video conversion, and when I say conversion, that means a like, click, or a share. That does not mean they're converting into a lead. I don't want that to be ever misunderstood, okay? But when you do a video, you are going to be 75 to 82% a click, like, or share, okay? Now, actually, a funny thing about this, Bernice, is I was reading some stats last night, and Facebook has touted to the fact that when you do a live video, that could be live Instagram, live Facebook, live, you play YouTube, whatever, you have a 6x engagement rate. And so it's a substantially larger engagement rate. But if you're sticking with just the static videos that we're talking about, like uploading or whatnot, then when a customer does a video about you, a testimonial, or anything else talking about you or your services, there's an 84 to 86% conversion rate. Again, that's a click, like, or share. So it's literally at like epic levels of how high the engagement rate is when it's done with video. And so that's why I'm going double down, quadruple down, 1 billion down on video. I just think you can't get these returns anywhere else.
Well, Greg, and I know so many of us are reluctant to get in front of the screen. We all have kind of screen reluctance, and then learn how to do this, and of course a lot of, and then we've got a couple generations now that they've been doing Facebook Live, and they're doing all this face to face. Those of us who are older, you need to adapt, or you're just going to be left out, because this pandemic has forced everybody into these venues, whether we like it or not. And I think we're going to see a huge change going forward about that. Conversation for another day about what that's going to look like. But, one of the things that strikes me about that, it could be just, a lot more people may decide they need a home office and they don't need to go into the office,
Exactly.
That cuts down on overhead for the employer. I mean, there's all kinds of interesting things that can come about that. There was a study done by of over 99,000 emails that was done by a site called superoffice.com. And they had some really interesting findings, Greg. They found, first of all, only 20% of the email programs were responsive. And what that means is, do they fit to the size of the screen that they're being looked at? And I think over 60% right now, I don't remember the exact numbers, are viewing, their content on mobile devices, and especially video content. So, you want to see how your video email or your Vmail looks on your phone, on your iPad, on your laptop, just to see what it's looking like and how it's appearing. If you're having to do spread it out and do that, that's a problem. So, you want, it should just fit automatically. Also, I thought it was interesting. Their study looked at what are the best open rates. So if you're going to send something, Monday through Friday is better than Saturday or Sunday. I've seen some research that suggests differently, but this is a recent study. And the best times between noon and 6, but the peak, and I mean, it looked like this, was at around 3 o'clock. So between 2:30 and 3:30, best time to email. And I don't know if people are just at that, the kids are out of school or they're at work, they're at the end of the day, they've got, they need a break, they're looking at what's going on, if they're checking their emails then, but that's an important takeaway. In terms of what you send, use your name, not your company's name, and then your header, the subject field should be no more than 6 to 10 words. And Greg and I have been playing with something called a headline analyzer. You just discovered this. This is from the American Marketing Institute. That's AM Institute, and then headline analyzer. So AM Institute and headline analyzer. Google that and I'll bring it up. What happened with one of the titles? So you had a name of a show or something that you were doing that you shifted on and made a pretty big difference.
Yeah, it was dramatic. I had done a Instagram IGTV video. And so I'd shot it and I thought it was super awesome title. It was niche down and find your superpower and how to, prospect for leads. And I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Niche down. This is going to get a ton of views. I mean, I'm usually around the 12 to 2,000 views per IGTV, give or take. This thing got like 300 views. I'm like, what in the heck happened? And I plugged in that into this headline analyzer, and it was like out of, I think out of 100, isn't it, Bernice? Mm-hmm. It's a score of 100. I got 16.65, and I'm like, oh, Bernice, is that good? And you're like, no, Greg, that's not good.
Now, what you want is at least in the 30 to 50 range, which is professional copy. Copywriters, like you hired somebody, you paid for them to write your copy. If it's between 30 and 50, and you can figure it out just playing with it. And we've got some guidelines on that.
Do you know what, when I tweaked it, do you know what my score went to?
Tell me.
53.85.
And what was your new headline? 5
things you need to know to niche down and find your superpower. And people are it went through the roof. It absolutely went through the roof. It's really so much fun to play with.
So you've got the results. So your views jump way up,
Oh, hockey stick.
Really? Isn't that interesting? So
fascinating.
Check your headlines. There's another, I've been using this thing for years. It does work. And the secret that you had was using the number 5. Mm-hmm. Just adding that. If you use the word secret or awesome, that also, according to the SuperOffice study, that works. Things that don't work are the words confirm, features, and upgrade. Don't you almost anytime you see that you're one of the people that you've got, this happens with Apple all the time. They want me to upgrade. No.
No upgrade.
I'm not going to Catalina. No.
No.
No, everything's working fine. I'm not fooling around with it. So, and the other things, if you use a hashtag or a question mark in your subject line, that also will cause your views to go down. Now, I want to go on to talk about, Greg, you've been, you work with referrals, but you're kind of a hardcore prospector. When I've trained it, you've heard, Greg and I were talking about the ABCD model and tweaking that for what's happening right now in terms of assessing how strong your clients are in this environment. The ABCD model from referral stands for A is for angels. These are people who will send you referrals and do so regularly, and they will do business with you. B is for those who will do business with you and make a referral if you show them how. And some people are not comfortable doing referrals because, I remember my best friend didn't refer, she didn't list with me, and she says, I don't want to lose our friendship over my husband. That was the God's truth.
That's funny.
And then C's will not refer, but they will do business with you. And then D's are delete. Now, you have tweaked this model for what's happening today, and you're using it as kind of a litmus test to judge how strong these people are as buyers or sellers in this environment we're in right now. So tell me a little bit more about what you did on this.
So it's not only just a litmus test of the leads or the prospects, it's also the source of the prospect. You're looking at, did you get them from a large source? And I'm just going to use Zillow because it's the big 10,000 pound gorilla. Okay. Let's just say you get Zillow leads. Or is it better that you get, like, if you're going to go out and shoot some videos and you get organic people to come and contact you and follow back up with you, and they engage with you from your own sourcing of time and energy and knowledge? Or is it your network, or is it your past clients? I mean, what's the source of the lead? And then you can analyze, okay, well, I can take more money and put it over here, or more over there, or just eliminate that whole line of marketing, because it's just not giving me quality leads. Because let's be honest, you don't want quantity, you want quality. I don't want 100 leads. I don't want 1,000 leads a month. I don't want to brag about that, because I have to do all of that follow-up, and you got to sift. It's like mining for gold. You're going to sift through a lot of rocks and dirt to find that one nugget. Why don't you just take a handful of nuggets and just work with those nuggets? That's my personal thing. So that's what I'm using as a litmus test here. One, what are my lead sources looking like? Are they viable to continue in the future? And two, what are the quality of leads coming out of them? And then putting them in the appropriate buckets on how to follow up and when to take action with them. Because your A's are going to be the people, even if the homeowner has COVID, it's going to still be like, get me in that house, I want to go see a property. And now, should you do that? No, it's not healthy. But what I'm saying is, in the story, is they're actively moving at all times, and they want to buy or sell. And as Bernice held up the phone, you could have the homeowner do a video tour. So just active is my A's, and that's the source I would niche down on and go double deep.
What percentage of people that you've been working with are in that category? Have you seen a big drop? Are your A's still kind of hanging in there for the most part, or have they dropped down somewhat?
It's funny. Like, the people that are truly wanting to sell, like, they made that mental shift, and they're like, okay, we're taking action. Let's take action. Oh no, Corona just struck. Now what are we going to do? But these people, when I'm doing my calls, I'm using RedX's triple line dialer, and I just brought out some new algorithm with their expireds, and these people really want to sell. I mean, they will take action. So I don't see a reduction. I just see a pause because of the health concerns. But I'm telling you, man, when the gates go up and we're let out, it's gonna be like a herd of just a stampede of people buying and selling. It's gonna be hopefully great.
I believe that's, I think the demand hasn't gone down, but, we talked about some of the other things in terms of jobs and businesses. So, we may see a pretty major change in terms of our clients. Now, what about your Bs? How would you, how do you rank them?
So they're going to buy and sell, but they're willing to wait. They're like, Greg, I like it. It's just, yeah, it's not the most perfect time for me. So I'm going to hold off. So our A's, nothing's going to stop them from buying or selling right now if the other side will play ball with them. B's are going to be, we're going to pump the brakes, and then C is just going to be like, you know what, we're going to hold off for quite a while. Follow up with us every 6 months. And then D's are the ones that are like, just forget it, man. We tried to get our price. We didn't get our price, or we tried to buy in this area. We couldn't afford this area, or there's nothing for sale. We're just not going to do anything for 6 months to a year.
So and by the way, those are also the people that you should have deleted to begin with, that are sitting there in your database that you may have been mailing to for 2 or 3 years or 5 years or 10 years, and they haven't. We've got somebody who's been mailing to us for 15 years. And
you know what? That's funny you mentioned that. I went through with viral marketing and my coach the other day, and we had about 15,000 people in my database. We chopped it down to, I think, 3,600 or 3,200 or something like that. Because these are the people all dead wood. They've never responded to anything. They were leads and prospects. They just were not engaging anymore, right? So they're viable. We thought it was great to have a 15,000 person database, but guess what? My engagement rate literally through the roof once you get down and be able to have good conversations with people. So, Bernice, what's your thoughts on reducing databases? Do you think
first
it's a
of
healthy
all,
thing?
I'm a big believer in that. And let me share something from coaching. There is, we've talked about this before, the vacation phenomenon.
Oh.
You were going on this big trip, you were going on this big trip before the COVID-19, all through Asia, and, really wonderful trip all before this hit. But just before you're about getting ready to leave, all this business starts rolling in. And what happens is when you create space in your, when you create space in your business, like taking a vacation, there's room for new business to come in. So one of the things while you're sitting at home to create more space in your business, clean your closet, clean your garage, clean your database, get rid of the dead wood. What you're doing is you're making room for more new business to come in. You're not carrying, you were carrying 3,600 out of 15,000. You had, 11,600 or 400, whatever it was. But you had a huge percentage of all that dead wood. It's gone. Now you've got room in your database for a lot more really good leads. Yep. So, take a look at where you're, if you're mailing, you're spending probably $50 to $100 a person every time you mail, 50 cents to $1. How many, if they're not responding, dump them.
Yeah, guys, dump them. It doesn't. It's not a hit on you to get rid of them. It's actually a good thing. It's like out with the old, in with the new. I was actually doing some search the other day, last night, Bernice, and I was researching on Facebook. I need to do more about it. But how do I get rid of all the Facebook friends that have never responded to anything that I've ever put out there? I mean, I wonder if there's a way to do that, because you got to purge so you can go then bring in the new people and have a better engagement rate and have a better conversation, a better opportunity to build business and build relationships. It goes across the board on all databases, all sources of when you collect any kind of human interaction. You know what I mean?
Well, I think one way that you can certainly screen is by looking at people who have followed you. That's a higher level of commitment in general than someone who's just, been a friend. And again, it's are these people who have friended you? Are they people that are going to send you referrals or do business with you? And that's one of the ways to kind of engage. But then you've got a lot of personal people in there too. So it's like one of the ways I would suggest is making a Facebook list. And, it could be, close friends, it could be family. It's like starting to categorize those lists on Facebook. And then that gives you a way to actually start to, to segment that database. But that thing's kind of a mess for most of us over there.
It is. And Bernice, you brought up a really good idea. I might go off on a tangent here. So I probably will bring this up in another article, but there's some ways to go through that. And you just got my mind working in regards to how to clean out the database, but yet still get a higher level of engagement and interaction from everyone that you have the opportunity to connect with. Because once you do that, the algorithm at Facebook says, oh, these two are talking. This must be an important person to this other person.
So, the thing of it is to engage and to raise your engagement rate. when someone that you've done business with or is, part of your sphere makes a comment on Facebook, respond to their comment. Don't just post something, because that raises your profile on Facebook. And also, if anybody else makes a post on the same one, engage with their post. That's a way to expand your database on Facebook with someone you actually had a conversation with. So the final thing, kind of shifting gears from Facebook and from ABCD, the last one I wanted to talk about is open house. And when we were in previous downturns, one of the things they used to have the foreclosure buses. Do you remember that, Greg? Where there were people going around looking at all the foreclosures in one subdivision, especially if it's a where a bunch of builders are. You go to or they'd have I was working in LA, so we didn't have a lot of new construction, certainly no new subdivisions to speak of, very few of them, but there might be 7 or 8 of us that had listings in Westwood in a certain price range, and we would get together and we'd do an open house. All of our listings were open that Sunday, and we're different brokerages, but we all promoted it. And then, we got traffic coming in. We advertised it on each of our companies. And so we got a lot of traffic coming in, and that worked really well. So, and you could, people could go to the other open houses, but it was a way for everybody to see some, an area when there's not a whole lot of sales, but at least get that exposure out there for your sellers and get more people coming in from not only your advertising, but other people's. Now, the other thing, of course, is to do a virtual open house. In fact, you had a story about that you saw just a few days ago.
About doing virtual open houses? Well, there's a couple of them, and one of the things when it comes to doing virtual open houses, you don't, this one kind of scared me, and that's why I'm stuttering over my words, because I was going to look at a house, right? I had my client with me, and I walk in, and all of a sudden there's this other person in this house. I'm like, you're not supposed to be here. What's going on? And it was the agent doing a video, and then they were going to host a virtual open house on Zoom. So anyone who wanted to come in and take a look at the house, they said, okay, I'm going to do it at this, and this time, walk through the property, show it off, answer any questions. In retrospect, looking back at it, I'm kind of baffled at why they just didn't shoot that video once and then air it 3 more times. That's the one I don't understand. But I went out and got myself this little guy. This is the DJI Gimbal 3. Very cool, about $120 or so. But it's a stabilizer, and what this thing can do is you can screw into the very bottom into a tripod here, and then you can activate the app, and it will do facial tracking. So you can sit it on a tripod, and then it will just follow you as you walk and talk about different aspects of the house as it sits on a tripod. Side subject, but very cool. Could be very cool for open houses. Well,
this is very interesting. That is something, part of the problem, the newer iPhones, I don't know if it's at the 10s have it, I know the 11s do. They have the stabilizers built in, but most of us are running phones that are not that new. Somebody was suggesting GoPro last week. That really takes care of it. But if you can, this tool, way cheaper than buying a new phone.
Oh yeah, I saw the DJI mobile, Gimbal 3, way smaller, more compact than the Gimbal 2, and then I'm running the iPhone 11, so I'm doubling down on stabilization. So this cinematic smooth shots, because nobody wants to as you're walking.
If you're holding it, you're going to shake.
Yeah, and it's something new and fun, and people really take interest in it, and you can have anyways, don't get me down my tech bubble here.
Sounds like a conversation for another day. So to wrap up for today, a final takeaway, Greg.
Final takeaway, guys, go through your database, do some spring cleaning, get it up to snuff. There's nothing wrong about how, bringing your database down a little bit. And it's also a really great opportunity not to make calls to people for sales, but hey, how's life? How are you feeling? Do you need any toilet paper? Do you need any paper towels? Have you had an adult conversation lately? Because I know the kids are at home. You want to talk for 20 minutes? You know, how's the husband? How's the wife? You know, like I told you before, I had a friend of mine from Denver, Colorado call me, and he's the only one that's called me and just said, "Hey man, how you doing, bro?" And I think our clients are starved for that. So go clean the database out, have human to human conversations, and when you come out of this thing, you'll be blown out the back end at 2,000 miles an hour, ready to rock and roll and take back the marketplace. What's your takeaway?
And for me, it's just, again, don't forget about the basics. You know, get your agency documentation signed. You know, get focused on getting face-to-face via Zoom or on video. Those are just, you know, that's the name of the game right now. And it always has been. It's just a different venue. Thank you for being with us today, and we'll see you next time.